Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another Dirtbike magazine video. This is the 2026 Dual Sport Motorcycle Buyer's Guide. Straight from the pages of Dirtbike magazine March 2026 issue, here's a look at every model year 2026 Dual Sport motorcycle available in the US market. Due to tightening emission standards around the globe, and particularly stringent standards in American and European markets, it takes a great deal of effort to offer a legitimate dual sport bike today. The key word is legitimate. While many states will allow you to transform your OHV into a street legal vehicle with a handful of mods, the official rule for a true 50-state legal dual sport motorcycle is that it must meet certain criteria in order to sell it straight from the dealer with a license plate. These are the manufacturers who meet those standards and are 100% street legal and what we deem at least 50% off-road capable. First up, the Husqvarna 701 Enduro, $13,399. The Husqvarna 701 had a long reign as the most powerful dual sport in the world, even if it has to share that title with its half-brother, the KTM 690 Enduro. The 693cc 6-speed is in fact among the most powerful single-cylinder motors of any kind. It now has a selection of ride modes that make the power more manageable and has an optional rally mode that further expands the selection of rider aids. The KTM 690 Enduro R, $13,399. KTM originally developed this engine for the 690 Duke street bike, but that motorcycle is long gone, and the Enduro R lives on as the flagship of the dual sport world. It has a trellis frame with the fuel tank located under the seat, WP Explorer suspension, anti-lock brakes, and a selection of ride modes. The same platform is used for the Husqvarna 701 Enduro, but the KTM has its own bodywork and distinctive look. The Honda XR650L, $6,999. Back in 1992, it's unlikely that Honda engineers that the newly introduced XR650L would go on to have the longest run of any bike in the company's history. Some say that it was even outdated in 92, having borrowed most of its technology from older models. Today's version of that bike is virtually unchanged from the original, but it satisfies the need that no other trail bike quite fills, with decent suspension, superb reliability, and outstanding value. The Suzuki DR650S, $7,299. When you look up cult bike in the dirt bike dictionary, there should be a picture of the Suzuki DR650S. It has a fanatically devoted base who love it for what it is: reliable, versatile, and unintimidating. It has slightly more power than the XR650L, although most devoted riders will concede that it's less effective as a dirt bike. Still, there are accessories and aftermarket parts galore that allow owners to make the DR into anything they want. The Can-Am Origin, $11,499. To the current generation, Can-Am is a company that makes ATVs and side-by-sides. If you go back a few years, Can-Am was a major influence in the motorcycle world and won both Supercross and outdoor motocross championships. Electric power opened the door for the company's return to motorcycling. The Origin is decidedly street-oriented, mostly due to its 400-pound weight, but has incredible torque and can be recharged at public stations. The Stark Varg EX, $12,990. In its short history, Stark feature has already had a massive impact on the dirt bike world. The Varg EX is a very capable electric off-road bike that is fully street legal. It has KYB suspension and comes in at 264 pounds. It can outperform virtually any dual sport bike in every category except range. That can be a deal breaker for long rides, but we have known riders to finish 2-hour off-road races on a single charge. The Zero FX, $12,495. Zero is a US company that pioneered the electric motorcycle movement. While the company's line is mostly street-oriented, the FX has some legitimate off-road potential. Its advertised weight is 289 pounds, and it has a range that can be stretched as far as 102 miles. Zero provides connectivity with the next-gen smartphone app, and that allows you to adjust ride modes as well as regen characteristics. The FX received very few updates since its release in 2013. The Beta 500 RS Special Edition and 390 RS Special Edition, $13,990 and $13,790. The difference between Beta's dual sport bikes and its dedicated off-road four-strokes has always been very thin. Now the new special editions make the dual sport bikes even more dirt-worthy, with KYB suspension topping a long list of bonus items that include a quick-release front axle, reinforced handguards, alloy foot pegs, a dual metal rear sprocket, a gripper seat cover, and special cosmetics. The Beta 500 RS and 430 RS, $12,690 and $12,590. To the horror of dual sport enthusiasts in the US, Beta temporarily suspended its RS dual sports in 2025. It was only a brief interruption, and the updated 2026 models were an early release. They now have a new frame, a new rear brake master cylinder, a new muffler with removable spark arrestor, and a new twin injector EFI system. The 500 and 430 are identical aside from displacement. Both come with a Voyager GPS navigation system. The Honda CRF 450 RL, $10,099. Honda has a history of letting its dual sport bikes go unchanged for very long stretches. That's what's happening now with the 450 RL, which rocked the world when it was introduced in 2019. The good news is that it was actually more expensive back then at $10,399. Honda knows the role of the bike has changed. It's no longer meant to go head-to-head with Euro dual sports from KTM and Beta, but it's far more capable in the dirt than virtually anything else. The Husqvarna FE501S, $13,599. There's no dual sport bike available in the US that has a closer connection to a pro-level supercross bike than the Husky FE501S. The 501 frame and motor are descended from a common ancestor with Malcolm Stewart's Rockstar FC450. The dual sport bike is, of course, in a completely different state of tune, is 50 state legal, and has a 6-speed gearbox. But the connection is there nonetheless, both mechanically and cosmetically. The KTM 500 EXCF 6 days, $14,699. For 2026, KTM is offering a special edition of its 500 EXCF dual sport bike. The 6 days trim gives you an orange anodized CNC triple clamp, an orange frame, a radiator fan, a front axle puller, a semi-floating front brake disc, a solid rear brake disc, a skid plate, and 6 days cosmetic treatment. Under it all is the same platform with a PDS no-link rear suspension and a coil spring version of the WP Exact front fork. The KTM 500 EXCF, $13,499. Despite its lofty price, the KTM 500 has become a staple of the dual sport world. The bike returns for 2026 without significant changes. Its main calling card is still the PDS no-linkage rear suspension, which is now coupled with a coil spring Exact fork. The engine has a 6-speed gearbox, and instrumentation is minimal. In stock form, the power delivery is clean and smooth, but somewhat modest in peak output. The road to aftermarket performance is well traveled. The Suzuki DRZ 4S, $8,999. Last year, Suzuki rocked the dual sport world by suddenly coming to life and redesigning the DRZ 400, which had been almost unchanged for 25 years. It now has fuel injection, a dual spark plug head, and completely redesigned chassis. It also has fairly sophisticated traction control, but fans of the older DRZ will definitely find much that is familiar. Compared to minimalist dual sport bikes from Europe, the Suzuki is clearly more street-oriented. The Beta 390 RS and 350 RS, $12,490 and $12,390. Beta's role in the dual sport world is all about micro markets. The company has 4 dual sport bikes that look virtually identical from the outside. In fact, you have to ride them to understand the difference. The 350 and 390 offer a distinctly different feel from the 430 and 500. For that matter, they are quite different from each other. In general, the smaller displacement, the lighter the feel, despite feeling similar on the scale. The KTM 390 Enduro R, $6,049. KTM isn't deaf to the complaints that dual sport bikes have become very expensive. The new 390 Enduro R was built to be affordable, with many of the components sourced in India. The engineering is still 100% KTM, but the price is less than half of the KTM 350 EXCF. Accordingly, it's a more street-oriented package, with WP Apex suspension and an advertised weight of 350 pounds. The Royal Enfield Scram 411, $5,099. The Royal Enfield Scram is a bike that defies easy categorizing. It's a stripped-down version of the Himalayan 411 adventure bike that makes it less expensive, but it's still not a dual sport bike in the traditional sense. It has a relatively short suspension travel, under 8 inches, and a weight over 400 pounds. Still, it can go off-road and is more capable than the bikes generally classified as scramblers. The Beta Alp 4.0, $6,790. Beta is doing its part to combat the high price of dual sport bikes with the Alp models. The Alp 4.0 is powered by a 348cc double overhead cam motor. The most impressive aspect of the Alp is that it's assembled in Italy, although many parts including the motor come from Asian sources. The suspension travels about 7 inches and the weight is just over 300 pounds. It offers both traction control and anti-lock brakes, both of which can be turned off. The Beta Alp X, $6,790. There are two Alp models from Beta, with the Alp X being the most street-oriented of the two. It has the same steel chassis and 348cc motor as the Alp 4.0, but with a 17-19-inch wheel combination and more street-oriented fenders and bodywork. The suspension travel is still over 7 inches. It also features a TFT display, is passenger-friendly, and has Beta's 2-year limited warranty. The Husqvarna FE350S, $13,199. The FE350 is based on the Husky FX350 closed-course competition model, but with just enough street equipment to pass DOT and EPA regulations. This is a very capable dirt bike, not a commuter, and not an around-town bike. For 2026, there are no significant changes beyond cosmetics. The aftermarket knows exactly what to do to make the FE350 into a race-capable bike and retain the license plate. The KTM 350 EXCF, $13,049. This is the most dirt-oriented dual sport bike you can buy. It's lighter than anything else in the category thanks to its PDS no-linkage rear suspension design. The 350 EXC is still 50 state legal and as such makes only modest power in stock form. It also has somewhat street-oriented Continental TKC80 tires that most owners replace with DOT approved knobbies on day one. For 2026, it has no significant changes. The Honda CRF 300L, $5,749. Honda offers the CRF 450RL to appeal to the elite off-road rider and the CRF 300L to appeal to everyone else. The 300 is inexpensive and unbreakable, as long as you stay within certain parameters. It has acceptable power and handling until you start expecting too much, particularly in the suspension department. The CRF 300LS is the same bike at the same price, but with a lower seat height. The Kawasaki KLX 300. $5,649. This is Kawasaki's direct answer to the Honda CRF 300L. It offers similar power with slightly better suspension. Like the Honda, the KLX 300 was never designed with serious off-road riding in mind. It's manufactured in Southeast Asia to keep the price down and therefore broaden the appeal beyond the traditional dirt market and include commuters, students, hunters, and campers. The Kawasaki KLX 230 Sherpa S ABS, $5,899. Kawasaki has had such success in the small displacement dual sport market that they decided to subdivide it with models that seem similar but have different rider and mind. The newest of these is the KLX 230 Sherpa. This bike has a lower seat height, a tubeless rear tire, handguards, different styling, and a mission that targets more adventurous but perhaps smaller rider. It comes standard with anti-lock braking that can be disabled by the user. The Kawasaki KLX 230, $5,199. The original Kawasaki KLX 230 is a back-to-the-basics dual sport bike with an air-cooled 2-valve motor fed by electronic fuel injection. The KLX is just powerful enough to mix it up with highway traffic if need be, but it's primarily made for around town riding, dirt roads, and moderate trail riding. It's less expensive than the newer Sherpa S, but doesn't give you handguards or a tubeless rear wheel. The KLX 230 is available with anti-lock braking for an additional $300. The Kawasaki KLX 230DF ABS, $5,999. This is a third variation based on the KLX 230 platform. Kawasaki calls it a fleet model, and it has a mix of features from the standard KLX 230 as well as the Sherpa S. The engine and frame are the same across all three, but the DF has bodywork similar to that of the Sherpa S, and a seat height that is the same as the standard model. It also has a tubeless rear wheel, handguards, a luggage rack, and blackout styling. Anti-lock braking is standard equipment. The Yamaha TW200. $4,999. This is another cult classic in the dual sport world and has been in Yamaha's lineup since 1987. It's got its last update in 2001 when it gained a disc front brake and lost the kickstarter. The TW200's defining elements have always been its low seat height and its wide wheels, which supports a 130/80/18 front tire and a 180/80/14 rear tire. After all this time, it still has a rear drum brake and carburetor. The Honda XR150L, $3,399. The Honda XR150L officially has the lowest retail price in the dual sport world. There might be some cheaper motorcycles that claim to be street legal, but the little XR has legitimate approval from the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Transportation, and all the other agencies that make such decisions. It has modest performance, a rear drum brake, and an old school carburetor, but it's capable enough to introduce young riders to dual sporting. And lastly, the Yamaha WR125R, $3,999. Yamaha offers the new WR125R with a clear target in mind. It's designed to go head-to-head with the Honda XR150L. It's a much more sophisticated machine than the Honda, with variable valve actuation, fuel injection, a rear disc brake, and an anti-lock brake system. The motor is liquid cooled, has 4 valves, and is said to outperform motorcycles with much larger displacement. Well, that wraps up our 2026 Dual Sport Buyer's Guide. We hope you liked the video instead of maybe reading all this online or in the magazine. Hopefully this helps you decipher which bike you might want to purchase in the future. If you want more information, more bike tests, news, reviews, all the latest and greatest, head over to Dirtbike Magazine, and we'll see you down the trail.